は東京上野動物公園閉まるドアにご注意ください。
Hi, my name is Will, and welcome to the Distorted Transmission for today. I'm talking to one guy from a band called Memory Foam. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Will.
Sure thing. Let's do the introductions. Obviously yourself and the other members of the band, please, and what they do.
Yes, Memory Foam consists of Yuko Miyoshi on vocals, Guy Innes on drums, Sinisha Milkovich played bass on our album. He's since had to leave and he's been replaced by Rory Dunn, and Samantha Webb plays synths.
Yeah, obviously you're Samuel Moore and you play guitar. Cool. The one person you missed out. Next would be sort of a brief history. I usually ask every band that I interview to sort of summarize themselves.
I guess it actually, in a way, it started out as a bit of a bedroom project. Actually, initially I met a different drummer, this guy called Rob. He's in a band at the moment called Magic Factory, and he used to be in a band called The Raw Nerves. We kind of went so far, but he was very busy. But we made a few demos, and then Sinisha filled in on the demos, and so we kind of got that going. But it became apparent that Rob was too busy, so I approached Guy. I always just sort of got on with him pretty well, and I didn't really know, but he liked my old bands like Bad Energy and another band I was in called Invisible Threads. And so he was really excited when I asked him, and I played in the riffs, and when he heard it, he was like, yeah, this sounds great. And then from there, it was basically three dudes just playing riffs at practice, and it was fun, but we were kind of like, well, you know, what's the end result of this? Yuko was going to his work, which was a brewery, and they also, you know, you could go there and drink and have dinner and stuff like that. And I did meet her once there, but I think one day he was just like, oh, we really need a singer. And she was like, well, I'll try. And she's that kind of person. And like, in terms of like, well, I'll give it I'll just jump in and give it a go. And she came along. And then coincidentally, he had also arranged Samantha, who's ended up being our synth player, to come along.
Everything just kind of just fell into place, sort of one person after the other. Everyone sort of appeared at the right time, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. We'd started practicing a few weeks or a few months before the first big lockdown.
Yeah.
We sort of kept messaging each other over Facebook Messenger, and we're determined to kind of, you know, keep going. And then as soon as lockdown finished, we played a show at the Vault, and we just kind of happened to be quite well rehearsed and quite ready to play live. And it went really well. Like it was actually a really good first gig. And from there, we just suddenly got all these offers, like to play open for bands like Wax Chattels and Die Die Die. It just kind of seemed to kind of all suddenly start flowing pretty well. Yeah, and and we recorded our album last year.
I was going to ask you about your debut album because it was Steel Magnolias, and it came out about a week ago. Yeah, June the 9th.
I worked with Mike Logie, who's the bass player in the Mint Chicks, and he played in Die Die Die. I just asked his advice about what he thought about studios, because we ended up recording at the Lab.
The Lab is a great studio. It's a great place.
Yeah, and I've always actually got on really well with Ollie, and I think he's always done a really great job. But Mike Logie was kind of like, well, it doesn't really matter where you record, if you've got a producer. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I jokingly said, well, do you want to produce the album? And he said, sure. And it was great. Like he came along, and it was actually just a lot of fun. It took 2 days to get it all down. And pretty much everything that you hear on the recording, except for some vocal overdubs, is what we did on the day.
You recorded it live as opposed to track by track. Is that right?
Yeah. And that's kind of the way I've been doing things for a while. Not because of any reason that I think it's wrong to record track by track.
I understand. Like if you are recording something track by track, like everything's stripped back to bare, and each musician's kind of sort of alone and naked, sort of like trying to add their bit to the song, as opposed to a band feeding off each other, putting down a track together. It's a very, very different environment. It's kind of like sitting at home and playing along to the song, as opposed to playing in a band practice room with the band. It's a very, very different energy, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I've definitely gotten to a point of my life of not really being too worried about whether I play like, you know, sort of guitar parts the same every time. I think it's okay if it's a little bit different every time now.
All right. The next question was actually about the video for Choo Choo Train. Because at the beginning, this was actually a question for Yuko, and she's not here, unfortunately. But at the beginning of Choo Choo Train, there's a Japanese train announcement. Do you know what the train announcement is? Has she ever told you, or is it just a thing that's on the track and you're unaware of what it is?
I think it announces the city that the train is traveling to.
What it actually says, because I speak a bit of Japanese, is it says that that you've just arrived at the Tokyo Ueno Dobutsu Koen, and a Dobutsu Koen is the zoo. So it's saying that you've arrived at the Ueno Zoo, which is in Tokyo, and to be careful of the closing doors. That's all it says.
The lyrics for that song, I believe, are actually about a childhood trip she took on a train, and it was a very vivid memory of hers of going to see a famous panda, and that she sort of looked into its eyes. And, you know, these are in the song as well. And she had this intense connection with this panda bear. We were very close to using the sample. And I was probably overthinking it and being a bit turbo, but I was like, I think we should just be careful. That is someone's voice.
I did actually spot that it was her saying it.
Yeah.
To sort of avoid that copyright issue, which was probably a very smart move.
And Samantha did the little melody and made it sound like that kind of that general MIDI sort of sound, but she kind of changed the notes around a little bit, and it kind of worked quite well.
I don't normally interview sort of foreigners who are, well, I don't mean to say in a derogatory term, but a band with an immigrant as a frontman or a frontwoman singing in their own native language is very unique and very unusual in New Zealand. I haven't come across another band that has sort of attempted that. So some of the questions were sort of geared towards her in that perspective. Yeah, so there is this question. It was sort of for her, but I suppose you could attempt to answer it if you like. Here we go. Here's the question in full. I found it interesting listening to a Kiwi punk band with a Japanese vocalist using Japanese lyrically, where many punk or pop bands in Japan, such as High Standard, which is a band over there, generally try to emulate Western bands like Green Day. I mean, they're just like a carbon copy of Green Day for the most part, and they all do their best to sing in English, even though sometimes the translations and the pronunciations are absolutely atrocious, and it actually works against them. I think they should probably stick to Japanese, and then their songs would have so much more meaning. But there's that sort of image that's kind of the thing that the kids are into, so they buy this because this speaking English. But yeah, in New Zealand it's a little bit different, and I was wondering how people have sort of responded to the Japanese influenced punk style, and why did she decide to incorporate Japanese? But maybe you can answer that.
I think we kind of encouraged her to sing in Japanese if she felt like it, so we've I guess we've been encouraging of that, but yeah, I agree with you. I think it's kind of it's something that I like that she's decided to do, and to have that bilingual aspect. In terms of the audience response, it's it is interesting because you sometimes you do get the odd comment. I don't understand what she's saying, but it's like, well, of course you don't. You don't speak Japanese.
The last question really is about the band going ahead. What's your plan for the future?
We're playing around the country in support of our album, playing a few dates. We're hopefully heading over to Australia to play a few dates over there. And really, it's just carrying on and writing some more songs and just having some more fun and just do it all again, really.
I'll probably meet you at the Punk It Up. You're playing there, aren't you?
Yes.
1st and 2nd of July, I believe.
And we're playing Punk It Up, which we're very much looking forward to. We're really stoked to be on that.
That's the first time you've played that, isn't it?
Yes.
I guess the last Punk It Up was before you were a band, I suppose. Possibly.
Quite possibly. We're really stoked. And we're playing the week after that for a women's refugee fundraiser as well, which we're stoked to be on.
All right, Sam, I guess we should wrap it up. But thanks very much for chatting with me tonight, and best of luck going forwards. And if I see you at the Punk It Up, I'll come and say hello because I'll be filming that. So,
thanks so much.
All the best to the rest of the band. Cheers. Thanks for watching.